Yeah, it's obvious that this community has experienced a significant generational shift over the last 6 to 9 months. This is not the first time we've had this sort of thing happen. There have been many shifts that have occurred on the server in previous years with many people joining and leaving. And what usually happens in those shifts is when people leave our community, they tend to do it quietly, and we tend never to hear from them ever again. However, this generational shift is different because of the events leading up to last October. That has added a lot of resentment, emotion, and added grievances and reasons for people to leave. So if people do decide to leave or become less active, I would ask that others, the ones that aren't leaving, respect that choice for whatever their reasons are, and even if we might not fully understand those reasons completely. It's totally understandable that if people no longer enjoy hanging out with members of the current community, or they have less motivation to be on the server, then there's no good reason for them to participate and stay on here. On the flip side, I would ask that the people who do decide to leave to please do it in as civilly and respectfully as possible, and not try to take down the rest of the community or try to come on here and ruin everyone else's fun and experience on the server. And so far, for the people who have left, most of them have done so. When it comes to current staff, other than Echo, which I do know has publicly stated that they will probably be leaving toward the end of summer due to IRL obligations, there are no other staff that we expect to resign or be demoted, assuming no further surprises, of course. The admins have concluded their discussions with inactive staff members, which we announced at the end of May ASM. So there are no further inactivity demotions on this Friday anytime soon. On that note, with a new generation of members, we are also looking for a new generation of staff. The new nomination process has certainly been an improvement over what we had before, but it's also not perfect, and it's still very much a work in progress. I would like to thank everyone for their patience as we continue to refine and adjust the process to the community's needs. And there is one such change in this GSM Topic 5C that might help in this regard, and we will be discussing that later. It is going to take some time to find the right staff members for our community, so I would ask for your further patience as we try to figure this out. And finally, and I did mention this maybe a few weeks back, but I'll make it official now. The server will be renewed for 2022, and I'm going to be shifting how I think about renewals as well. So earlier this year and many times before that, you may have noticed me essentially threaten to shut down the server. And this is mainly because, there's so much drama, so much arguments, just the inability for people to stop, listen, and understand, empathize with each other. Like, dealing with all that, it's a lot, and that's taken a toll on my mental health. However, looking back, I've now realized that my threats, all they do is just make a bad situation worse. All it did was increase the anxiety of people, making them more worried that the server won't be here when they need it. And for that, I do sincerely apologize. That was wrong of me to do. So I will make every effort to not make those sort of threats again. Instead, and you can blame Gods for this idea when I talked to him a few months ago, I'm going to be doing the following. If I do ever decide to shut down the server, I will give at least 6 months notice. It won't be the server won't just disappear overnight. I'll give 6 months notice, and so at least people will have time to prepare, reminisce, and at least the server can go on a positive note this way. Also, when it comes to announcing renewals for next year's or subsequent years, I'm not going to wait till the end of the year. I'm going to actually announce it closer to the anniversary date. This helps that in the sense that this helps in that there'll be no more uncertainty toward the end of the year when it's so close to the renewal deadline in January. So, basically, you'll get a heads up. It'll be a little sooner than later. So in summary, this server, of the 9 years it's been here, it's still going to continue to exist as long as there are people who want to join, stay, and continue to come back and have fun on here. And as much as a few people have stayed otherwise, this server's not going away anytime soon. And that's it. Hello?
Hi.
Am I talking to Dr.
I can clap, but I have push to talk on, so I could clap immediately.
Trumpel, you're just speaking into the void.
Oh, great. Do I have to say it all? Okay, never mind. Whatever.
No, you're fine.
You're good.
All right. But if you have comments about this, let's leave it to the Q&A perhaps, but let's get through the rest of the topics, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for letting us, sharing that and letting us know of all of that sort of stuff. That makes sense. And certainly exciting for those of us who, find a lot of value of hanging out around here to know that that we'll be around for another little while. So thank you. All right. Well, let's get into the meat of the meeting, shall we? So 5A is clarifying the 300-500 rule set and how that applies to third-party rail lines.
Yeah.
So
well,
Frumple, this is your item.
I did propose it. I've actually forgotten what the situation was. Oh dear. Yeah. So there was some situation where some player, I don't remember who, I can think of the name of it, but yeah, they established a town near a line within 500 blocks and did not notify them about it. And that, yeah, like, I just basically went through the history of the 300, 500 block rule. And the original intention of it was rail line owners, like third-party rail line owners, they don't own the land around their lines. And I think it's also implied that the 300, 500 block rule doesn't apply to that. So what I'm proposing, or I've proposed several ideas. One idea is to simplify the 300, 500 block rule to just towns only, though from feedback I've heard, that may not be, there seems to be differing opinions on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So, I mean, we can debate that now if you'd like. I did write an alternate wording of the rule down toward the end, in case we do decide to just keep structures on there. But the reason I don't like this one as much is the wording of the rule starts to get a little fiddly. But if people are okay with that, then I'm fine with going along that route. In addition to this, there is a modification to the rail line section that makes it very explicit that rail line owners don't own the land around their lines, and the 300 500 block rule doesn't apply. That does mean that other members can establish towns around those lines. Like town owners can't, obviously they shouldn't be modifying the stations and all that. But yeah.
And that's covered at least in the other rules, though, right? Because that'd be like, I wouldn't say griefing, but still in the sense covered by the other rules anyway.
Yeah,
it's still kind of modifying other people's builds and whatnot.
Right.
I still feel it's worth just explicitly mentioning here, just so there's no confusion.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've generally had the principle that rail lines themselves do not constitute claims that can enforce a 300 500 rule. But the reason that we have the IAT ITB process is because they do need to respect the existing claims that are set by existing towns and stuff. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, if you want to get really technical, I know that I don't know this. So maybe it might be better to say there is a possibility that you could have an argument where how does it work with like elevated rail lines that have pillars and stuff like that? Like where do the borders go with that? I don't think we need to get into that right now, because generally speaking, that's just been worked out between the appropriate entities. But I think just the general principle makes a lot of sense. My view on non-town structures is, one, they're pretty rare. So that's not a huge, or on one hand, they're pretty rare, so it's not a huge amount of consideration. But on the other hand, that's how you start a town, is you have a couple of structures that are out in the middle of nowhere, or maybe you might be attached to an MRT station or something. And then that's the basis of how you start building a town. And if the rail line owner wants to come through and, it's like right after you start, well, now how does that fit in? So.
Have you checked Otto's opinion? Because
I'm not really sure that's what Otto's asking here. I think his mainly just for like structures that were just there for the sake of being there, not really the sake of for making a town.
Yeah, they don't. These sort of structures, like the one example Otto brings up, it's not a town technically. It's more like a castle, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I'd agree that if we were to look at it as a town, it'd probably have enough effort to be counted as councillor, or it's definitely town worthy.
I said in the forum channel earlier that we could say that structures that would count as a significant claim could have a 300 radius while structures that are insignificant and on an expired claim would not?
Hmm.
The figuring out that distinction is going to be the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's something that, like, I think generally we've agreed on what the conventions are for stuff like that, but it's not anything that we've written down. And we have intentionally left the definition of what counts as significant development slightly ambiguous, just because we're like, it's so case by case, just based on the amount of work and stuff that's gone into it. I mean,
But-
it's in theory, it is a useful measuring device, but it's missing, I think, a critical step.
Just to make it clear, Otto's concern is if we decided to not count, say, something like this place or this castle that we're around, there's a concern that someone could just, just place down a third-party rail right next to it or through it or whatever. Not
I
through
mean,
it,
they did. There's one right near this castle.
yeah, like what it seems like it's already happened.
Yeah, I mean, you
So-
can actually, it's direct. If you fly south of the castle, you'll hit it, and it's it'll be 100 blocks away at most.
And in Otto's opinion, and I'm not sure if this is opinion shared by others, like that sort of ruins the environment around that build, I guess is the best way I can put it. So I guess the question is, are we okay with do third-party rail owners need to just at least get permission or get approval for this, or are we okay with just leaving it alone? Like they can do this. This is fine.
Personally speaking, I think that'd be a good idea. And like, yeah, if they're not sure if it counts or not, they can always ask a staff in the same way that they would for another structure.
I'm just watching HVT and Kitty typing too, because I'm curious
Yeah.
what other third-party rails are thinking about.
My
the rule.
understanding HVT Kitty are on the side of the 300 500 block rule should only apply to towns, which is, it's a fair position to take.
Yeah, I'm also thinking it's especially because we are like the 300, 500 rules, those are chessboard distance. They're not. So that's a pretty big square around what you have.
Again, though, would we define this castle as a town, though?
No, I think this is the question of, does the castle have a 300, 500 claim? Well, okay, now that's making me think. 300
Again,
the
Chief,
300.
you should
Arrows.
look at this. This is huge.
No, I recognize that it's huge, but it's not a town, or it hasn't been like. It doesn't seem like it has the intention of being a town.
Well, we don't know that because we don't we're starting into the heads here at heaven, but it's like I think we're going down.
Right.
I think we're going down a hole that we shouldn't really be going down.
Kitty does say that the purpose of 305 is to allow rooms to expand. Most of the time that's the case, but it's hard to, I guess it's hard to determine if is a town actually going to expand or not, right? Like this castle's been here forever. We don't know if the intent is to expand to maybe a bigger town or something, right?
This might be
So-
a really stupid way to handle it, but a simple method of just having, requiring people to go, hey, if you want to slap down a sign somewhere in the structure indicating what it is, like, is this a town? Or is this just a one-off that you've built?
If it's a town, you should
We can't do that. There's
Well,
still
if
a
it's
problem.
If it's a
Sorry.
town, it should go through the ranking process. Or if it's unranked, and because unranked towns, we can register them if they're being transferred around. But if it's a town, there's a way that it gets documented.
Because I would agree to there because all of Yoshi's stuff has Yoshi has built literally towns technically, but not actually registered them in the town ranks, and just left them as they are, and they're decently sized builds. Yoshi had no intention of those being towns.
Right.
I'm just trying to give some examples right now, but I'm mainly thinking here of Mole Gulch, all the mole sets really is what I'm kind of going at here for examples.
That actually gives me an idea. We actually asked folks to. I know we've said in the past that we don't want to do this, but if somebody does, they have started a town and they're actually building it, it's not yet ranked. Would it be possible to allow them to basically just, let us know and go, okay, we'll throw that on there because clearly you've expressed you have an interest of expanding this into a town, and you've got a few buildings already. Looks like you're going for councillor soon, but you don't know, you might have to go for a bit and yada yada. I think that'd be a very good way of registering it, and also keeping track of it because there's been so many structures that look like potential towns that no ownership, no registration, no coordinate.
I don't have a problem with that per se. I just know that the only case that would really apply is if someone is taking, just wants to take a long period of time to get up to counselor, because that's automatically happens once a town gets counselor. So I think it's a fairly moot point for the majority of people.
It could also just be if the player is cautious. They want to make absolutely sure.
Again, it's a valid idea and all that. I just think the number of people who are that's not, I think, a solution to the problem that we're looking at here.
Okay. And I can only see one way it could be used for malice, so might as well not get into that.
Right. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the question, I think one of the fundamental questions that we need to look at here is, with the 300 and 500, with the protection rules, at what point do you receive that? And for sure we know that if you have a town that's ranked, for sure you receive the protection of those. But where's the threshold that you're crossing that?
I think
we're going to address that indirectly with this. So
honestly, I did come off as somebody who's actually, thinking we should protect these structures, but I actually wouldn't see this as being a bad thing to attach to council, both as a reward and as a, we're registering it anyways, yada yada. You might as well just have that all handled there.
So if we did that, if we go with that vault, then that solves the question of what we want to do with this rule, and say that it has to be that the protections only apply to ranked towns. That's one way we could go about
That's what Frumple was proposing.
Right.
We could.
No, sorry. To be clear, I did not propose that. Where did you see? I see it that said that. Sorry.
The first before your alternate proposal.
If you want to build within 300 blocks of any town.
Okay, just to be very clear, my intent was unranked towns too, but if you want to change it to ranked towns, that's fine too. I didn't. If I wanted to be ranked, I would have explicitly said ranked towns only.
Wait,
I did not say that here.
Okay.
Question, rather niche thing. We could. I think it would be better just to attach it to if it's on the town list in general, because community towns are technically not ranked, and towns that we transfer, yada yada. It would also give us a good mean, if we do want to specifically protect something, it's not quite a town, but for some reason or another we do want to protect it, or the mayor specifically requested it be protected, or there's some other reason for it. We could also throw it on there and just have it, if it's on that list, it's got its radius.
I would not. I would be fine with that too. Yeah.
It gives us a lot more flexibility, and it also prevents, people from arguing if community towns have this radius or not, because they're not ranked.
Yeah.
Essentially, this would be any towns that are registered. Basically, whatever has the radius has to be registered. The protections, they has to be registered. So it can be registered as a town, or for these independent non-town structures, then they're if there's a separate spot or similar spot to put them. Is that what you're proposing, Bob?
Yeah. So just to add on to that, also remember that our policy is to only add towns if they get transferred. I think we need to lift that restriction in order for this.
I was about to mention that.
Yeah. So then that would allow people, if they wanted to register unranked towns, that they would be allowed but not required to do so.
It might also be good for us to just, in those cases, just actually do a little, just a little sniff test, just while we're getting the coordinates, just to go, is this an actual development, or is this a gas station with a flag with a giant smiley face on it?
Yep. But even in that case, like if say someone makes an unranked town and they just forget about it and never come back, the third party owner can still do an IAB or something, or right. So it's not closing the door on the
right. It's just
I mean, I can
making
give
sure
an
that
example
they're
of
aware
that.
of it.
I can give an example of that. I literally created a town randomly off day 78. I have no intention of ranking it up. I literally just made it to be an abandoned town to enhance the look of the road. I don't care what happens to that thing. I just built it for the sake of it. I'm not gonna, for example, I think it's too insignificant to put it on the town list. The point being, just because it's like not ranked, I'm just trying to think of, for people that have the unranked towns, are the reason that they want it on the list is just to get the radius? And
So
I guess when the people put their unranked town, should we be mindful of how long it's like for the intention to keep that radius and work on their town? Should we care about how long that unranked town is on the list?
I don't think so, and I think that'd be too much. That'd be too much
think-
micromanagement on our end.
And
to be honest.
I think a
Yeah,
side benefit of this is we'd have a lot better tracking of these objects, because there are times where I have gone on the week, I have actually tried to ascertain ownership of some old structure that it's not ranked, but just I think even having that, the coordinates and the mayor later down the line, we will probably have a few situations where we're pretty dang thankful for it.
So, Cece, I would say, I think unless we have reason to believe that something's being registered on the list with malicious intent, then I don't think that we need to worry about it at this stage. I think it's better to offer the option as a convenience and as fairness. And
I mean, I'm saying
then,
that it's a very thin line that's blurring further to know the intent there, because like it's hard to ascertain intent with a town.
Then I think what Chief is saying. I think it's just, if someone asks, we put it on there. Don't think about it too hard. And if it seems like, if there's a situation where someone is like, let's say, founding a whole bunch of towns and then it seems like they're trying to reserve a whole bunch of space, then we can look at that. It has happened.
we actually, we have a rule that says don't make excessive land claims. So.
Yeah.
Like we can block under that rule if we need to. I mean, we have recently had to talk to a couple members. I know Noah. It took a few tries to get a town, to find a space that he liked and get a town that started going up the ranks. And like I know that there were some conversations specifically around, hey, can you like either deregister or like not have so many claims? So.
Ooh.
Okay.
I just
In
realized
terms
this
of the
also.
registration list, are we putting this with the town list and just renaming that to like, I don't know what kind of better name?
No,
for
it'll
that.
just be on the
Or
town
separate.
list. It'll
Okay,
just
so
be on
should
the
we
town.
rename that though? Because it's not really.
Just make a new tab for it, maybe,
Uh,
if we need to.
No, don't do that.
I
No.
don't think
If
that's
it-
a new town.
Keep it simple. If it's on the town list, then it's a registered town. That's the definition. And then we can set in the rules, and we can explicitly say, like, the 300 fire block rule applies to registered towns only. Registered meaning you're on the town list.
Okay.
And so then for one-off structures that are not intended to be towns that rank up and stuff like that, they're treated as towns for the purposes of this rule if they're registered.
Two things. Okay, one unrelated. Folks, if you're going to build stuff on here, please keep in mind that this is not actually just some random structures, that somebody built this, they own this. If you're just going to put rails everywhere, please make sure to clean it up afterwards.
And then what was your other thing?
Right. This is a hypothetical, but I think it's very easy to solve. It's actually, the more I think about it, the more I like the solution. Somebody has an unranked town. They decide they want to jettison it. Do we just strip it off the town list, or?
Sure. Why not?
As in, like they just want to abandon it and allow
Yeah, like
it
if
to...
I build if I build a few huts out somewhere and then lose momentum, lose motivation or find something wrong with it, or just decide I just don't have the time, would it be possible for somebody to basically strip that off the town list and basically just maybe slap down a sign saying anybody can have this, and if it's, now that it's off the town list?
I'd say just to be safe, we need a record of that town existing. So
I would
I
say
think we
if
have
it's
the remove town tab.
We could
anyway,
put a
we can
comment.
there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
remove town, or we could have a deregistered town.
well, so
Mm.
my thought is if it's unranked, I'm fine with that. If it has been ranked, I want to keep a record.
I'm
Because-
at the position I even run ranked towns that are abandoned. That those should still be on there somewhere. Like it's because you never know whether that unranked town gets IAT'd or someone wants to take it over or gets transferred eventually.
Well, but
Like-
what I mean is, I would be okay if, like, say, the town owner requested, or like, if they're going to abandon it, if it has been registered before, if they can come back to us and deregister and have us regen the area. Like, if it gets regened, which we generally don't do once it's ranked.
Yeah,
So,
no. I'm talking about towns that are just abandoned, not as in
Oh,
they're not regened. Yeah.
if it's
Kinda
just
like
straight up
Kitty's
abandoned,
idea.
if it's just straight up abandoned, then there shouldn't be any changes to yeah. So then maybe we could, add a column of like if, or something in there just to note that it's registered, but it's waiving the protections. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Kitty.
Yeah,
I'm
we could-
wary of adding complexity to the town. Well, I'd say if it really is, if people really want to waive their land rights, we could add the column. But I'm just
Don't we
Yeah,
have
more
like a
stuff.
comment section? Yeah, we have a notes section in the town list. We can just put it there.
we could. I just don't like it. I'm just not a fan of adding all these little exceptions everywhere on the town list so much. So
Yeah, I agree
I
in
don't think it'll
general.
pop up very often. I don't think I don't think most people will waive rights unless it's it is an unranked town. They don't want to expand.
If it's an
on much.
unranked abandoned town, that's generally the case. That's going to happen.
if we'll see how, we don't know exactly how much it'll be used, I guess, or how many people will waive their rights. So let's give it as an option. Like, we can put in the comment for now. If it becomes more of a thing, maybe it can get its own column. I don't know.
Okay, so the solution is, so it sounds like, so number one, clarifying that rail line owners, they don't own the land around the rail line. Two, the rail lines, the tracks and stuff do not constitute claims that warrant or that create a 300 to 500 block protection zone.
Yep.
Rail lines do still have to follow that rule in terms of their planning and stuff. And we're clarifying that the protections of the 300, 500 rules, that those apply to registered towns and structures. And registered means either a town that gets to council or above, because then it gets automatically registered, or an unranked town that gets manually registered by request, or that gets transferred.
Correct.
No, this isn't my moose. I'm just setting this on fire.
What I'm just kind of curious, how do people feel about that in, like, looking at meeting live and all that? Does that sound reasonable? Thing is, I'm not sure what Otto would think about this. I hope he understands it is a compromise in a way. Because technically, but from using his example, that castle is not registered, so whoever owned it would have to do so. Right?
Yeah, but and if
Right.
they were to register it, yeah, I suppose they could.
And they have the
Then,
option
so
to.
Yeah. So if you have a structure, then that means that you want to register it right away, because if something comes in before you register, then as far as we're concerned, it was legal. So
Yeah, we can't roll those back, unfortunately.
and we can't retroactively do stuff. Yeah, we're not making. Yeah. So Obi, to answer your question in the chat, yeah, if a structure is registered as something that is significant, and we put it on the town list, then for the purposes of this rule, it would count, and rail lines that go within 300 need the permission of whoever built that structure. But if a structure is just built out in the middle of nowhere, and even if it's amazing, if it's not registered, that protection doesn't apply. Okay. Roads don't get protection at all. They're just like rails. They don't constitute a claim. So this is only for.
And we already have record of roads, of A roads and B roads with staff records anyway.
Yeah. So, and again, roads. I mean, roads. I believe no. Roads have their own.
What do you mean?
Roads have to follow
towns?
this. Roads have to follow this procedure too. Essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, like
they follow the 300, 500 block rule.
Yeah, like the reason that we require all that detail in the submission process is to make sure that you have at least checked along your proposed route. And Needon is asking how much grace would we give for unregistered towns and structures? I don't know if we necessarily need to give any because
we normally just do it with these rules, right? When the GSM ends.
Yeah, so it's like if you have something that you want to register, the sooner you email us, the better.
Do we want to do email, or do we allow also requests to staff?
Request to staff should be fine, I think.
RTS is fine.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, I think like a lot of these are kind of tiny enough. They could just put like coordinates.
Yeah,
maybe I would request staff and would be good enough.
Yeah, RTS is fine for that and for member towns. So.
Yeah, and you just want what, the coordinates in like a picture, or what?
We need the coordinates. We need the coordinates. We need a name, and we need who owns it. And I mean, well, I mean, it's going to be registered under the person who posts it. So don't register other people's stuff.
I hope we never see that sort of thing, but okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, if you have an unranked a structure that's not officially registered, you can post and request to staff. We'll deal with those later today. But I would just say need a basically no grace period, and this would take effect right away. Okay. Any other comments, or are we good? I think
I'm kind of glad that we came to a solution to this. That seems like a
It seems like a good compromise.
Yeah.
Good one, Volp, and thank you to Volp Kitty and whoever else, and Otto for making the suggestions and contributing.
It's one of my only good ideas so far.
5B, which is looking at MRT World Heritage Sites.
London, this is your topic. You gotta. Oh dear.
London, would you like to get invited into the stage to present the topic?
I'm more just curious right now with those things we just did with 5A. How much of this is already covered by what we just did in 5A?
I think this is aiming at a different. This is a different question of motive.
I mean, he's saying to protect things that are technically significant, which they could technically register in that same sense.
The difference here, Stacey, is this is sort of more like premier towns already get. They get protected in the sense that they can't be transferred, right?
Involuntarily, yeah.
Yeah, and so that this is more like, can we apply that to other builds or other towns? There's also and London puts up this possibility. It's possible that maybe we want to world guard some of these so that there's definitely no chance that these could be like vandalized or changed or anything like that.
Would we ever really have any issues with that? I mean, I suppose we could, but I don't think we've had issues in the forum. We can always just. I see why. Like, we don't always catch these things. Like, we have seen issues on the old world where we've not been able to track down griefing. We've noticed that something's happened months ago, and we just don't spot it.
So, London, if you could hit the request to speak button at the bottom of your Discord panel, then we will be able to bring you into the channel here, so that you can kind of formally present this and be able to answer questions a little faster.
I agree with some of Autobus's criticisms. At the very least, I think we should defer to the August GSM until we get a solid list of how the process should work.
Okay, try talking London.
Okay, so I brought this proposal up, all right, because I've had a look around, obviously, the server for quite a while now, and we've never had some sort of heritage site thing. So it's like, you know, the 9th anniversary is coming up, and like in 9 years, we've obviously seen the old world now been preserved, obviously, as like a heritage thing as well, like been preserved in its right, and also because there's been a lot of history obviously around what we've seen, like historical landmarks like designated as like a World Heritage Site. So, you know, there's a lot obviously I've seen around. I mean, it's like, you know, we've got Stonehenge, obviously, where I am. We've got, you know, Hadrian's Wall. You know, it's all various. It's all various historical things. So, what I was implying was, I mean, you know, Trump obviously had a bit of a talk about it and thought, you know, maybe add it to the proposal. I wanted to see what the community would think as well, because we didn't know, obviously, what people would think would be best, because we could then designate, like, for example, Yoshi's Manor, for example, obviously, which is, I think, somewhere over near Christmas Island somewhere. I mean, obviously, we've got a few buildings that are scattered around, so it's, you know, there's a lot. I mean, it's like, I can't name every one of them, but...
London, question?
Well,
I know we do this IRL, but like, would we actually be protecting these with a region? Like, is there any... it makes sense if we're considering this from like a roleplay perspective, but as far as actual benefit goes, I'm not sure. Although, I think the idea itself is actually pretty solid. Like, yeah, a way to recognize these landmarks, like, hey, here's where something major happened, or hey, this is where something big happened. We could maybe note those somewhere, but I feel like protecting the World Guard is a bit excessive.
I mean, go on, Frample.
Just to sort of summarize what Volt's kind of saying, what's exactly the problems that you're trying to solve with designating heritage sites? Like, there's the World Guard that may protect against griefing, which has been mentioned. There's the IAT immunity, which will prevent it from, say, something getting transferred and perhaps someone modifying it, right? So what exactly are you trying to solve here, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, obviously with the World Guard, obviously, because obviously it's a protected region, obviously it's like for example, it's like a site of scientific interest, but obviously we can do it without the World Guard. I mean, we can note stuff down, obviously, where they are, obviously, as Volpe said, but, you know, with the World Guard region spaces to obviously stop anything, you know, stop anyone from griefing or, you know, for example, destroying it.
I think we've got some natural protections against that. Like, the member apps mean that griefing is already fairly rare, and that when we do discover it, we can usually roll it back pretty quickly. Although, I do actually really like the concept of this, though, and yeah, if we could potentially find some method of figuring out, okay, what actually is important, maybe we can have a little designated spot to warp to it.
I feel like that
Beyond
gets into like a very different, gets into the...
Oh yeah, it does.
Here. It gets very into the eyes of the beholder of what constitutes important and what's not.
Yeah, like, we'd have to do
there's not
like
really
a
clear
discussion
criteria.
about...
Yeah, there's not... I'm more curious what criteria you're thinking of, London, that constitutes of heritage site in this case.
And I will also be... I have a very good potential point to make once he's done that. But...
Go ahead, London.
Go on. Oh,
Go ahead.
Me first?
Yeah, London,
Yeah.
if you want to respond to Stacey, I think, and then...
Like, I just wonder, like,
what did anyone say?
I was curious what kind of criteria you were thinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, the criteria I was thinking is obviously... If, for example, there's like an old mayor or, you know, because obviously premier cities are already protected from IATs. So, obviously, we weren't going to be heading, obviously, down that route particularly. But if we went down the route, obviously, of like that, what I was thinking was like, we could basically say that obviously there's certain area. I mean, it's like the criteria would be if the building's been there for like say 5 to 7 years. I mean, obviously the old world had, the new world hadn't been. How long's the new world been going on for? Like 7 years now?
7 years.
Or-
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years now.
Yeah. So, for example, you could probably say that anything like, if there was a building or a landmark or something that was like 5 years old already, and it's been on the server quite, and it's quite significant. Like, for example, in events or where there has been events unfolding, then you probably would want to obviously say this event happened, this did that, and all that. But obviously, the criteria I was looking for,
Isn't that
Cool.
almost
Idea.
protecting all of Gamma at that point?
Yeah, that would, if it's based on time, then all of anything with coordinates up to 10,000 would be covered under that.
I have an idea. And
Go
a
ahead,
potential candidate explanation. So there are actually some places where I think it actually has some merit. Have actually been little landmarks that have been destroyed. They're not quite what you'd think. Old members, do you remember at the end the old Tiger Line, how it used to extend really far out beyond where the last station was? And if you rode that to the very end, there was almost like a little communal area. Like people would place down signs and banners and little jokes and talking to each other. That was destroyed by a mayor. That, I think, would be a prime example of what we could potentially protect. Like, yeah, we do have these old landmarks that used to represent the corner of worlds where a lot of people have more or less, they've placed signs there. They've actually flown out their curiosity, and they've built little things. They've done little things, and they are at risk of being destroyed because they are, like the pillar at Frumple's house, where they are at risk of potentially being destroyed because they aren't actually protected. Somebody can build a town there and knock it down.
So I think we're conflating two different things here. I think there is, similar to the way that the UK does listed buildings, is they have grade 1 where you really can't do anything with it, and grade 2 where it's protected, but you can still make changes and stuff. And I think what we, it seems, have resounding opinion about is we don't want to do any kind of like a grade 1 type deal where it is completely impossible to modify something or stuff like that, and especially with World Guard, like that seems a little impractical for the needs that the community has.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the notion of wanting to protect something that is significant, I think that has just been covered with the concept of registered towns and registered structures. And staff more or less have a litmus test of determining if it counts as significant development enough that we're going to want to put it on the list. And if it's on the list, then it's at least owner protected insofar as the standard rules of not modifying other people's stuff, that immediately that kicks in, and the 300, 500 kicks in once it's registered that way.
So
well, hang on, let me, if I could just make one more point that's one side that I think that a lot of us are gravitating towards, is the concept of protecting things from being changed. The other side of this coin, and I think the slightly easier to implement side of the coin, is designating things as landmarks for the purposes of, say, marking them on Dynmap, or having them available as warps in the Welcome Center, or essentially having landmarks designated so that, say, when guests come on or when people bring their friends on and want to show them around, that there's essentially a tour route that's pre-constructed. And I think that is certainly something that we could consider doing, because that's pretty minimal amount of work other than deciding the process of how something gets on. The main concern that I have with this is, of course, the process of deciding how something gets on. And specifically, somewhat related to that, is the culture of the community and what we decide is culturally significant. That's going to change quite a bit. Like, for example, during the time of the mole, people are certainly gravitated towards the mole sets. But afterwards, they're kind of just a historical artifact that, are certainly like very well built. But in terms of a cultural event, it was for a single use. And I differentiate that with something like Christmas Island, where that's a recurring thing and very much is a part of everybody's experience. But I mean, the question of what is and what is not culturally significant, like that's also going to be in the eye of the beholder. So, anyway,
We
so
could have a
go ahead.
we could have a community nomination. There's a proposal. Yeah, we have community nominations. Like, I would immediately put forth I'd immediately put forth those little landmark towers where people have just built a bunch of signs and everything. There's others like that, actually. When I was like a trustee, I built a pyramid in the southwest corner, southwest corner of Gamma, and over the years, I've just been watching it slowly accrue signs and general, server's still here, yep, so you're everything's okay, and just general little things around that. Like, I think that would be what we'd be looking for, where it is just things that have kind of come into being.
Can I make a suggestion with for determining the builds? Can we just make a wiki, like an unofficial list first, like a wiki page for people to just
or like a spreadsheet in the staff docs.
Well, I think a wiki page might work better. Like just
yeah.
I really think that this doesn't need to be an official thing. I think, at least to begin with, this should be something that community members work on. Like on the old world, there's a bunch of stuff in Spawn City that has like a lapis block on it. This is like MRT historical official stamp or something. That was unofficial. That was just a bunch of people running around and just kind of reminiscing of, oh yeah, this was an important thing. So I mean, I think replicating that would be a really good starting point. And if we wanted to make an official like tour route or mark them on Dyn Map, I think that is a separate point of consideration.
Yeah, I think we need a list of builds that various people think might fit that criteria, and then if it sounds like we got a good list, then we can think about moving to an official list, I guess.
I could potentially. So we just put this like as like a table on the wiki. We could have like just be where people list reasons why they think it should be, and then others can just contribute. Like, okay, here's another reason. Here's another reason.
Kitty, just to respond to what you're saying, I think there is some value in putting on Dyn Map so that for new members or guests, they know where it is, right?
I'm at the pyramid. Folks want to see it.
But again, and Kitty, I think we would be selective about what even gets that marker. So, for example, Christmas Island, I would mark because that's pretty significant, and at least during that time of the year, it gets a lot of attention. ATC Airport, I would probably mark just because it's pretty big. There's a few others that I think are fairly spread out, but that would be marked. And then there's a ton that are still culturally significant that would not get marked. And I mean, I think cultural significance is a prerequisite to being marked, not the other way around. Okay, Needham, you responded to JTrain.
But by measuring cultural significance, how are we measuring that? Are we using, in the same sense, the premier kind of standard there?
I don't think we can answer that right now. Like it doesn't need to be answered right now. It's just more, I'm suggesting let's put up a list of people's whatever they think it is, and then we can sort of whittle it down to something more concrete if we decide to go the official route.
Okay.
So
basically, thinking up the criteria is going to take time, I think.
Yeah, well,
we could come back to some like September GSM or something.
Let's come back to it if there's a big enough list and we think that it's necessary and there's reason to do so. As of right now, I'm of the opinion that I am completely fine if this is being done unofficially by community members who just want to, collate a list or compile a list of cool stuff. And then if people want to go the next step and like actually protect it from transfers and stuff, well, you can't exactly protect it from IATs unless it's a premier town. But if it's something else and you want to protect development around it and make sure that we know who owns it, then registering it, that is an option.
I've got a bit of a question, actually. What about if you can't? Thing is, if you were to obviously designate something as a heritage, obviously, for example, obviously unofficially, how how would we get permissions from the mayor? If the mayor's not active, then how would we get permission? Because we can't just go around obviously just placing a sign saying this is it. And,
You're
you know.
not.
You're
So
not-
this is
not-
why we're doing it on the wiki, is because you can edit the wiki all you want, and it doesn't break any of the rules of designating something in game.
To be very clear, you're not gonna don't modify a thing in game. Just put a bunch of ideas in the wiki page just to designate. Yeah, this might be a heritage site.
I might try and get on that after the GSM. Like I can probably easily just set up a page, but I'll probably throw in a quick table so folks can get to work on that.
Volp, do you want to just make the page now, and then people who want to start editing it can do so right away?
Sure. What should I be calling?
List of culturally significant sites or something?
Heritage
Here,
sites
I'll-
or unofficial heritage sites. I don't know. Like heritage seems to be the name.
List of
yeah,
heritage sites.
There you go.
Oh, you made it?
No, I was saying there you go in response to Frumble. I haven't done anything on the wiki.
What is wiki? I don't understand.
Yeah.
What is this
I
wiki?
think
speak of?
it's some
Okay.
kind of weird Hawaiian word.
Anyway,
All right, so it sounds like the consensus is that we're not going to do anything officially other than the thing that we just did in 5A, where people can register their towns if they want the protections that come with that. And community members can put together a list on the wiki of New World non-town sites. Because premier towns, like those are,
sorry, to be clear, it could be towns.
or could be towns too. Okay.
One example I can think of is Vault City, because
Oh, right.
that is a ranked town, but it has some history behind that. So
Okay, so then town and non-town things, if people want to propose them as a potential significant site and then debate about it, JTrain, yes, it does not have to be yours to be designated as a heritage site. So I think if community members want to come up with that list, I would encourage you guys to, if you're unsure about something,
I'll let you folks know when the table's ready.
okay. I would encourage folks to use the talk page on the wiki as a place for debating that, because that's stapled right to the article itself. Or you can do it in Discord or whatever. If you're unsure of whether you think something counts, you can use that as a starting place of where. But yeah, I think having that on the wiki as a starting point would be good, and then we can revisit this at a later time if there's interest in doing something more officially, like, for example, marking some of them on Dynmap or setting up an official like tour route. That could be something that we could revisit based on this list.
Okay.
Right.
Also, okay, let's see. Name, description, coordinates, reasons for protection / significance, and current status / danger.
Don't put protection, because things being put on this list are not protected. That is a separate process.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
It's
So
just
reasons
a
for
list of
significance.
ideas. Yeah, just a
Yeah.
It's fully
Right now,
unofficial.
right now it's like unofficially, here's the list of places that the community thinks are significant from, from like a cultural perspective, and or have history behind them and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
let's just throw in a temporary page. Yep, page is up, list of heritage sites. I will get a full description once the GSM's over. Try not
Okay,
to erase
great.
each other's edits.
Yeah. Oh God, here come the edit conflicts. All right, cool. Thank you for submitting this, London.
Yeah, it's
No
actually a really
worries.
good idea. I'm glad you got to this.
Look
Alrighty.
forward to seeing the list.
Great, and I'm going to kick you out to the audience now. Goodbye.
Cool.
Back with the peasants you go.
Okay. Cool. So that is that. I hope people are able to come up with some good stuff. And again, certainly use the talk page on the that's stapled to it if you want to discuss like an idea, but you're not sure of whether or not you want to put it on the list or whatever. Okay. 5C, allowing witness testimony as evidence for moderator nominations and feedback.
Okay, this one's actually a pretty big one. Basically, there's been some feedback from Otto and some others that it's just too difficult to try to find concrete evidence like screenshots or chat logs for moderator candidates. So I looked back and basically using the analogy of a court case, technically we can also, it might be also a good idea to also accept witness testimony, just like how court cases work too. Like they accept both hard evidence and witness testimony. So what my proposing is basically, when it comes to different kinds of statements that you can make in your moderator nomination or feedback, it applies to both. Basically, any general or vague statements, you can see the examples on the agenda, those will not be accepted. Those will still not be accepted because they don't really help. They're very generalized. They don't help, convince others of, your argument. But if your statement is like, if it's about a specific incident that you witnessed or that you saw, it has to be. It can't be word of mouth. You have to have seen this yourself.
We do have hearsay rules.
Yeah, no hearsay, please. Yeah, if you've seen it, then you can add it into your nomination because so far we haven't. And looking back, that is pretty restrictive. So yeah, if you see someone resolve a conflict or they help out others, but you don't want to go through the logs or you don't know where it is, so you don't remember where it is, then this is where you can put it. And of course, any sort of right.
I was going to say, or if it happened in voice chat too. This made me realize.
Correct. Yes, that would also be counted in there. Also, but again, hard evidence, screenshots, chat logs, those will still be accepted. And keep in mind that sort of hard evidence is probably more effective at convincing others, or particularly staff members, of whether you're for or against a candidate. So do keep that in mind. The other thing I want to keep in mind is witness testimony. There are this is my proposal, but I can even see there's drawbacks to it, and I'm not sure how the community feels about that. Like witness testimony is not perfect by any means. Like people could straight up lie about their experiences. They could misremember or forget certain details. Like usually these sort of problems are mitigated if you have like multiple people saying the same thing, so that can help a bit, but sometimes you can't get that. The other thing I'm also worried about is people not understanding the difference between vague statements and specific statements, like basically types 1 and 2. I can frankly imagine that there are going to be some people who don't understand this difference. So I don't think it's a big problem, but I think staff will need to vet the nominations feedback and watch for that sort of thing, like trying to see if, whether it falls into, which category. That said, even with all these drawbacks, I think this will make it, I think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. So I think it'll definitely make it easier for people to write nominations because, you don't have to go log searching or anything like that as much.
I really like this idea. I think having the ability to use, because also like in the heat of the moment, like if you're just playing around and you see stuff happen in chat of, someone responding to something really well, or just having, like, demonstrating through their presence in voice chat or in game or however they do, and like in the heat of the moment, you're not going to be wanting to write stuff down necessarily or try and capture the logs. You might, but like that's something that you might come back to later, and that's a really valuable insight. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this idea.
I guess I have to ask, is there anyone against this idea? Because for generally what I've seen so far, it's generally in approval. So I'm
I approve of this. I think it'd make nominations easier, and we already in a way rely on witness testimony just from staff members.
Okay. And people do understand the drawbacks, correct? Like these are, I don't know how it's going to work out because it could, we could have people lie out their teeth or just misremember. I don't know how it'll.
But as Skelly says, though, a lot of it can be like, well, at least in game, it can be corroborated with Discord SRV.
Well, I think there's Not all of it. I think some of it can be. Like, for example, if there's an incident that someone doesn't remember the date of, but they can remember some of the details of, once that nomination gets published, then, if somebody else remembers it better and they know what date it was,
Yeah.
well, then they can corroborate it and submit something that backs it up. But there's a lot,
And the opposite
for
can happen.
example,
Somebody else can say, "Oh yeah, I don't remember this. I was there, and they went very different."
And
exactly. So
of course,
yeah,
as Chief said, voice doesn't count either. That there's no record of that.
yeah,
No.
I mean, it's all people's memory. And I think this opens the door to a huge, because I mean, as we have experienced, and this was a big deal for us back in 2013, 14, when we were, all on voice all the time and really kind of getting to know each other and people just through that medium. I mean, the way that people hang out just when they're just socializing on voice can be very informative of how they get along with others in all sorts of situations, which is really valuable for us. So I think that's huge. The other thing, I mean, again, I think it's worth the drawbacks, especially if staff are vetting the incoming information to make sure that it's not to make sure that, as Frumple, as you say, that it's not just unnecessarily vague or just too vague to have any effect. But then I think just staff, as we are weighing the evidence in making our voting decision, I think that's going to come into play as well. And I hope that people will take that sort of thing into account. I mean, for those of you who are of the age where you can be summoned for jury duty, then this is a valuable skill that you may need if you ever get called in to serve on a jury, is dealing with weighing witness testimony and believability and all that sort of stuff. So it's certainly, I think that's fine to have that limitation as a part of it.
I always knew being on the MRT would train me for law school someday. I've learned that I can lie and say nullification, and I get out of anything.
I never realized MRT would turn to a school for people to learn things here, but okay. Anyway,
It's a daycare, it's a school, it's a quarantine lunatic asylum.
Anyway, there's one other thing I forgot to mention. Would people be? I think this is good. I think we should add this to the policies and procedures page, just so people know what kind of mod feedback or nominations to send in, because it's actually not written anywhere. Whatever I wrote here.
Yeah, this definitely should be published as an option.
Okay. All right. If there's no objection, I mean, we can put into effect, and hopefully we'll see more nominations next month. I guess that'd be one indicator that might be working. I don't know.
I'd like more junior moderators to bully, please.
Okay, Volt.
Hey, first one of the day. Ooh, 2.
All right. Okay, that sounds like that is approved without objection. So.
Okay.
Aqua Frumple's been saying that for years, so this isn't anything new. All right, 5D, remove the reasons question from Trustee Anderson. So Otto's proposing to remove this. I think there's been a little bit, there was a bit of chatter about doing this for various reasons. So I don't like this idea, largely because even though you can say what you will about the outcome of it, at least having the reasons field in place requires that whoever is submitting the form at least put a little bit of thought into it.
Yeah, I agree for those reasons. Like, it does prevent me from just shooting a nomination or a nomination for trustee, then being done with it. Like, I do have to actually write, I have to think, and I have to at least give some kind of indicator as to what I was looking for. So I think it's good to do that, to reject this.
I will say, that's not really related, but I would be okay with removing the question, because I kind of understand where I was coming from. I think I was hinting at maybe revamping the whole trustee system, but honestly I don't know what it would look like. But as a stopgap, if this change does go through, it could be fine for now. But yeah.
I would. So the intent of the trustee rank is like it's supposed to mean like the trust of the community. Like you have been around for a while and like you've established yourself as a community member. To me, if we were to remove this question, I would want to increase the number of required endorsements. Because the trade-off would then be, yes, it's less work per endorsement, but if the goal is to demonstrate the trust of the community, then I would want to increase the number of people who would need to vouch.
Don't think that's
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea considering how many people are active right now.
Chief,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd keep the current system. Like, it has its like it. We don't exactly look at like what's written explicitly, but just like see that they put in the thought about it, and we don't really have that with the other system, and also yeah, you don't know if there's enough people like within like the time zones, the time range that someone can be online to actually get the noms.
Frumple, I have a question.
Sure. What's up?
Would if it's just kind of hypothetical, but you did express interest in changing the trustee system. If you were to do that, what would the goals of any new system be, regardless of what it looked like?
It would still be the trust, but maybe in a different way. I haven't put too much thought of it. I'm just kind of throwing it out there that maybe there could be another way of doing it.
I would be in favor of that. I just don't have a full idea as to what that might be, because yeah, it's probably a better way to do it.
It needs to be thought out, but that's a separate thing that's probably months away, maybe never.
Yeah, that's a bit bigger than this one question. I mean, my preference would be to do nothing different than what we're doing now. But yeah, that's why like if we were going to accept this, I would do it with the condition that the number changes, but I'd prefer to leave it as is.
Does anyone have any opinions about what Avanish suggested? Like instead of rewording the question to say tell one event that
absolutely no, we don't need to turn this into moderator nominations, but for trustee.
Yeah, also, I mean, again, the trust of the community, you can earn that in a lot of different ways, and participating in events doesn't affect anything. And also that's really dependent on when the events are. Like it's
events as in they didn't mean like an in-game event. I think like is in a specific happening like interaction.
No, that sounds like too much to put on too many people's shoulders.
This doesn't need to be the moderator nominations where you have to have a statement to show that they're deserving of being trustee. I honestly think that getting a trustee endorsement in the first place is pretty telling of if a person is worthy of it, because it's pretty hard to.
Are we
Well,
sure?
let's just
feel
say
like
that
a lot
if
of people just give trustee endorsements just because people ask. Not really, they don't put much thought into whether they should or not.
That's true, but if you came here 2 days ago and you start asking people left and right about if they can endorse you, that's not really a way to get trustees. So at the very least, the person has had to have been on the server for some time and gotten to be known.
The shortest amount of time that you can technically get trustee is 2 weeks after acceptance of membership.
I think that most people would only like they wouldn't need to have positive interactions with someone, but at least interactions, like seeing them a couple times in game. And so yeah, that would be harder if you need more not nominations, endorsements. Yeah.
To just respond. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no. So yeah. So I think I'm kind of losing the point. Pretty much that I think it's yeah. I do think that some thought, like, not if it's like if someone is like extraordinarily like fit, but just like have I seen this person a couple times in game? That's a normal question to ask, and like if you haven't, then you wouldn't give them the nomination, I'd say.
Okay.
Or if you have bad experience.
Sorry, I just want to respond to what Kitty's saying. I don't agree with what Kitty's saying about the member app. It doesn't happen that often, but the member app just shows that you can write you can write the reasons that we're looking for and get the rules correct. But there's some very rare cases that people do all that, but they actually behave in very differently in game.
Yeah.
So that's why trustee's there. It's just another gate to remind people if they, they pass member but they misbehave, then we can say, hey, don't do this, please. Like,
Kitty, also
say, though,
that's why. Go ahead, Bob.
So there has been cases where folks they've done this after hitting trustee. Like, wasn't Mercury was Mercury trustee?
He got all the way up to mayor, but
yeah, and a lot of the players that have been genuinely destructive for the server, they either hit as a guest or they go higher in trustee. Like, I don't think I've seen anybody really stopped by trustee. It just serves as a yeah.
Yeah, I would also say, this is also why we have the staff review period, and if there was a situation where someone was receiving community nominations, we can veto and hold them. And it's all mods and admins have veto power over a trustee, and that puts a 30-day hold. So there are checks in the system. So I think it's generally working as intended. I see no reason that it needs to be changed dramatically, or with this change at this point. If we want to talk about revamping the whole system, then that's, I think, a separate conversation. But as of right now, I'm against.
I think that'd be a good place to have to do just a general, no change, but we look at getting started on this, the revamping process. We take some community feedback, how would this be changed? And
I think it's working well enough, and it's not intended to be a super burdensome process. So I'm going to go as far as to say I would just let it rest. And if there is further demand, if it becomes clear that we need to look at it, then I would start looking at it at that point. But I don't think we need to even start looking at it right now.
Yeah. Well, just to be clear, I don't consider the revamp a high priority. It's a pretty low priority thing.
Yeah.
It's something to consider, but it's, again, I don't know how it's going to look like. And you have to debate it with everyone and get agreement on. That's a lot of work. I don't know.
If it's something that you happen to be thinking about in the shower, then go for it. But I don't. Think
Chief, I never shower.
Well, that's it.
TMI. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
And that is now permanently on the internet. Great job.
Okay.
So I think this is going to be rejected without change.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Okay. Cool. 5E, clarifying the rule on relocating franchises.
Okay, this is a little, I won't say loophole, but sort of possibly a conflict, I guess I'd call it. I read the rules.
Chief, Kitty has a comment.
Railway stations are not franchises. So this entire
I was asking about franchises in the stations, because as you've probably seen Otto at the stations, he puts franchises from other people in those stations. And if he was to say change it around that station,
that's not. Asking about I don't think that's what I was.
That's not what he's asking.
What I've stated is, because stations are made by a company, they could be considered franchises.
Wait, what? Yoshi Yoshi has admin perms on the wiki still.
Oh yeah, I'll fix that. Thanks.
He moved me frickin' page.
I'll fix that. Hang on.
I thought I turned that off. That's weird.
Move me page. I'm annoyed.
Moving pages is something any trustee can do. Vulpicula.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Whoopsies.
Oh, okay. So No, railway stations are not franchises. The way that that rule was written is with the intent of if you have 2 franchise spots within the station, the railway station owner can switch them without telling the franchises inside of the railway station. But the franchises, like, they can't spill out into other bits of the railway station unless the railway station owner is okay with that. I mean, it's the same principle as how malls work.
Sorry, I think people are getting confused. I'm talking about the station itself, not the things inside it.
The station,
That's-
railway stations are not franchises. That they're not covered by this rule at all.
Okay.
Because franchises, like, yes, they're built by one company, but they're not like connected to each other. And like they have a bunch of locations in different towns,
But
but
they
they're not
are.
physically connected.
I guess I'm not following it then. I guess you better explain it for Rumple because I guess I'm not following then.
So my understanding was because just like you have a bunch of companies, they build a building in someone's town, that's a franchise. By that definition, a rail company is building buildings in a town also, right?
They're building
Okay.
buildings, yes.
Yeah, and that's
Typically
owned.
underground,
The
yes.
station is technically
Yeah.
owned by the company, right? So it kind of fits the franchise rule. That kind of fits the definition of a franchise, doesn't it?
It does, but
What
feels
Otto is clarifying is basically it sounds like it does for most of the rules, but there's one rule that doesn't make sense, and that's the one that he's pointing out here.
yeah.
So I would say, to me, it feels like there's a bit of a difference because a franchise is that plus it has a kind of commercial purpose to it, whereas transport infrastructure is
It is
feels
a commercial building to sell goods and services. The services are to transport people. Right?
But I think we generally have had the opinion that transport, since that is our main purpose,
I think an
as a-
answer might
as a
have just
community.
gotten yeah. Turns out we actually did also rename it as private property rules according to a topic that Kitty submitted that passed. So it would extend to railway.
I did.
Yeah, I do remember that getting passed.
That did get passed. I think what I did was I just basically redefined what franchise was. That's what you see there, I think.
I see.
It is a commercial building designed to sell goods or services.
I will also counter the whole thing. When you do move a railway station, there are things like if the warp is to go to a certain area, you are potentially destroying warps at other stations, and thus are potentially destroying, private property. And also by moving the station, you're generally also screwing with a rail line, which, yeah.
So hang on, that's different. It's generally been accepted that like once like if you have an airport or something, and you wanted to redo the airport or like move the gates around and kind of swap planes around, like to kind of compact a bunch together from the same airline or something, that's generally been seen as okay for the airport owner to unilaterally do, and then if they are staff or like working with staff to then fix the warps so that to try and minimize the inconvenience to the airlines.
Yeah, an example
I
that would be
believe-
like with Court, whenever he redid Epsilon multiple times, he would fix the warps with it.
Right. So I believe
But,
similar. If you're talking about moving a town owner, moving railway station, is that what this is about?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what Kitty's saying.
Think about it
Okay.
this way: what Otto is doing is, if we assume that all train stations are franchises, that means he looked through the rules and found there was one that didn't make sense because that
Okay.
basically that conflicts what we've done traditionally for train stations before.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So then in that case, it's like whoever built the station, then like they have the ability to decide if they need to move it. Because if a town builds a railway station and then the and then it gets service, that's different in terms
That's
of their
different.
ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I follow. So, okay. So then in that instance,
I can see there are different ways we could go about it. We could go with auto's exemption. It is kind of a weird just thing to add there, and we'd be done with it. Because the rest of the rules I think are okay. Like I mean, I assume autos look through them. I don't think they should be cause any issue. The other way is we could say that train stations are not franchises and they're completely different, and we need to define what exactly that means.
I think we should just go with Otto's proposal and keep it simple.
Yeah, I don't think there's
In a way, it
really any
does.
major change from this, and I think it's there is enough potential reasons. Like I don't think anyone's going to be the kind to move it, but it's better safe than sorry.
yeah. Okay. So then in that case, then yes, go with autos. Clarify, I mean, like actually fully implement Kitty's proposal from a while back of clarifying that these rules apply to all sorts of, or to all kinds of private property within a town. Because it seems like that hasn't been fully implemented. Or at least make that
No,
clear.
it was right. Like it was like it. Property is now just called franchise, but like
No, it was
instead
the
of
other way around. No.
Yeah, it was the other way around.
Kitty proposed taking franchises and expanding that categorization and naming it the private property rules, and just to encompass all these extra situations. So that's what we were saying of that was proposed and it was approved, but it wasn't fully implemented on our end.
So that change, just to be clear, does that basically mean changing the word any commercial building designed to sell goods and services to be defined as private property? Is that what we're doing? Because
no,
sounds
I
like-
think this sounds better to like just reflect better what the general use of the word is, and like
I think-
private property is more
I
vague.
think
or
we're
With-
straying from the original proposal here.
yeah, with that, so I think for this proposal, like what Otto suggested here, approve that as proposed.
Mhm.
For Kitty's, what he sent, like the whole franchises private property thing, I think we just need to go back to that
December
proposal and
2020
what we did
GSM.
with it. Thank you. I think we just need to go back to that and figure out what we need to do with it based on the current setup,
like
and then go from there.
one thing I'm worried about is if we just change all the wording to private property, it's gonna fuck up the whole wording of this. Like, because you see below down there, it says franchisees and all these other stuff. Like, how do you reword that? So,
Private
but so
property owners? No, shit.
Well,
that'd be bleh.
Leasers? Does leasers count?
Let's see.
So what I think what I was trying to do, though I may have not fully put it in, is basically say this is what a franchise is. This is what it's defined as. It could be, and private property is included in that definition. Then the rest of it is okay, I think. That
Okay.
to me is the simplest way of implementing that change.
I think that's fine
Yeah.
then.
Does it sound good to Kitty and others? Does it make sense?
So I'm sorry, I was trying to get that searched up for Kitty. What do I need? What are we exactly doing?
So instead of saying any defined as any commercial building designed to sell goods or services, just I'm not sure how to word it. Like it defined as any private property, not owned, private property not owned by the city's town or town's mayor, maybe, because that would be the distinction, right?
Sure, why not?
I don't know.
I think
Built by other players,
Yeah.
that works too. That could work.
Yeah, I like that one a little bit better.
Yeah.
Okay, Cece, can you write that in the notes? So I don't
Working on it.
forget that.
That's
Thank you.
exactly what I'm doing. That's what I was asking.
Awesome.
Any other comments? Otherwise, I think we have settled 5e.
Hopefully everything is easier from here on out. Transit, event, IAT, lake rename. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. On to 6A, B84 by Captain Obi.
Roads.
Frumple, what were you saying about not liking roads anymore after Cody had that interchange?
You
Oh.
guys can discuss this. I'm just gonna sit here.
Simple road. It's fine.
Number available?
Let me pull the road list. Yes, it's available.
By me.
Simple. All the terms are there. Fine with it. Makes sense too. Any opposition?
Nope.
Nope.
Approved, I
once.
guess.
Approved.
Going twice. Approved. 6B, A746 Phase 1. This looks like a resubmission.
Yeah.
Why should we submitted it? Like, the agendas don't expire unless...
No, we asked him to
No.
resubmit because we were confused on his permissions. It's A746 has been approved actually about 2 years ago. I found the past GSM proposal a while ago from Lithium, and I've done lots of the world edits for Lithium. So
Yeah.
the road is actually built pretty far past that phase 1. You can actually see it on Dyne map. A lot of it's kind of re-getting his permissions for things that have gone inactive in that time and other things like that.
I see.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Vault, approvals do get expired eventually. Like if it's just too long, I don't remember what the.
We never
I
set
think
a
we-
formal threshold, but
This is
Was
it's
it
been
6
too
months or
long.
something?
no,
Roughly
2 years
but
ago.
yeah, it's already way past that. So
What's with the thing about the IAB that he's talking about?
So Avalon, he's trying to inactive bypass Avalon, which
And
is
that-
that town right there at the interchange. And he's saying his interchange goes too close to that town.
Yeah, the owner is Dieter. He's been offline for like 2 years, 1 month, so I don't think he's coming
Yeah,
back.
let's just approve it for simplicity's sake.
We had him resubmit that mainly because of that permission, because I could not track down the original proposal whether he had perms for that. So we were saying resubmit for that. And then also the route that we could tell about the route for that still.
this is intended to terminate in Bird Hall.
So the full route is actually to go to Fenton. You can actually see on Dyne map. Let me pull up the road layer to give better instructions. So if you see on D33, that's Fenton. There's the remnants of the A6 there. And you can see above, north of Fenton, is the current terminus, this A746. It's supposed to interchange technically there in Fenton. The rest of that goes underground through Bird Hall, because again, he went off of prior permissions that he had from Robang to do everything underneath Bird Hall. Like the road exists under Bird Hall already. You can go there on Dyne map and like run through it like that road.
Right. Okay.
I only know this because I had done all those world edits.
Okay.
Mainly, I guess they kind of got lost in translation, but I mainly just had him resubmit first permissions to finish up the road that we know it's still working in progress to get him to finish it.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's
that
two parts
all-
he still has to finish. He has to finish the interchange at Avalon around M20, and then finish the interchange at Fenton, and then the road is technically done.
So phase 2, that's all done as well, right?
Yes,
That's going
except
from the circle
the
line
part
down
at Fenton.
to. Okay. But generally, the bit that goes from the circle line to Bird Hall is done.
Yes.
Okay.
You're watching the road come along slowly. He's done actually a really wonderful job with it.
Try to pull up the past GSM agenda so you can show what he did there.
Yeah,
I've-
Rumple, you're about to you're about to go off.
Sorry, what?
Rumple, I
Hello?
thought I heard a sigh coming from you.
Oh no, I'm just I'm just saying it's a saga that with lithium with this road. Like there's a
Well,
lot.
kind of on the wayside because past GSM we actually had Castle supervising this.
Yep.
Yeah.
It has been coming along quite well though. Like yeah, it's every now and again I do a world edit for it, and it's a little bit further complete.
Yeah, there's only maps in the past GSM, but they're mentioned all around. You search it. The point is, I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure you got the updated permissions.
Why did you
This is so
folks make
old.
a Greg's?
I think in terms of if we're just looking at the administrative stuff of getting clearance to do the bypass and things like that, I'm fine with that, and kind of reauthorizing the route just to get this thing done. I'm okay with that as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, the Chang Hall to Burr Hall was that's all, but I'm just fine with it.
Yeah.
Get it done.
um,
I'll keep
can I-
pushing and working with him to get it done.
yeah. The only thing that I don't like about this is the co-signing of things with letters. But I think that was just a convenience thing, if I remember right. I don't think that the actual roads in that area have letters off the end for the most part. So
They don't. The A6 doesn't has a different route technically from that map. That's actually an older map from the A6 from the past A6 proposal.
okay. So in that case, again, I'm fine to approve. But I would really, it makes it a lot harder to understand what the current status of things are if people are reusing old maps without good reason.
Oh yeah.
So I would have preferred if there was an updated and new map for this.
You'd have to
'cause then
you have to communicate to lithium, and
I'm aware that I'm aware that in this case that communication is going to be hard, and so I'm just, since this road is almost done, I'm just more stating it for the benefit of everyone else, that if anyone else runs into a situation where you have to like re-reference old material, that it's much easier for us if you just use a new map every time.
Yeah.
If you have good reason to include an old map, like for reference, that's fine. But again, just it helps to be clear of what you're talking about. So
Yeah. My intent was just to
I'm-
make sure staff knew this is going on. Permissions were fixed up, and that way you can get it done.
yeah, I'm fine clearing those and letting them proceed.
Okay.
All right.
Events now, right?
7A Formula MRT.
Considering that Harbor did run the Mu1 Grand Prix, and that seemed to go fairly well as far as I know. I don't
It's a
see any
small
problems.
seawall. The only problems were with technical issues with his computer, if I'm recalling correctly.
Oh, it's hardware issues, not issues with him running the event.
But
Yeah, he
that's
had internet
that's
issues,
the main
if I remember
problem.
right.
Yeah, that's the main. Internet issues happen. That's not of people's control. I'm more
Yeah.
concerned about how the actual event was organized and run, and did people have fun, right? So
It seemed they did. I
Well-
remember there was a few questions over like a rule thing, I think, right?
My memory is hazy on it. I did attend it, but it was a month ago or so.
And also, I mean, it's a trial run of something. Like it's going to be a little bit rougher on the edges anyway. So
Did anyone currently listening to the GSM attend it? Like, if so, was it good? Was it bad?
I was there, as Chief said, there were a couple bumps. Like, I think there were a rules thing with a horse, and also some things with cleaning the horses, but overall it was fine. There weren't any serious issues to the point where I would recommend against him getting an event grant.
yeah, the important
Right.
thing is if there's anything major, Like,
Yep. I don't see
There's
anything
nothing.
major.
Yeah, no, it
I
was
think
fine.
having it done a trial run and seeing that there is demonstrated interest and that there is good planning happening, I'm very pleased to see that. I think there are minor improvements that I think that I would probably suggest, like personally. One of which would be that it may be a good idea for Harbor to designate a backup kind of staff person to help run the event and explain things to people if he ends up having further internet issues. But that in and of
Mhm.
itself is not like, that's I think just an improvement that he can make, and that's not going to block me from approving the grant. I
I'll-
also will just
Yeah.
point out, I like how he is, when he was in some of the planning phases and identifying towns to do it in, that he was specifically looking for towns that weren't super hugely ranked, that were lower ranked but still like had potential to be community sites. I think that's really cool to be branching out into more locations of events.
I'll also suggest, if people are participating, and Harper's aware of this, like there was a horse that couldn't be deleted, so just making sure to make sure those horses are removed, because when I had to delete it, I had to go do a Minecraft vanilla command to do it. And I was
I'm not
like,
sure on the V4s, but I know the V3s. There's like a sword you can use to kill them. I'm not sure about the V4s.
Or like the
This was a
Or
very
like, I think-
custom. This was a very custom horse. So
yeah, I think if you're using
He's
the
saying
official
that
Fast
he's using
Boy,
the same one. He's using the same ones he used in the Grand Prix, the ones that you had to do that for. That's what he said in
so
the
okay,
proposal.
so that is a problem that I think needs to be addressed then. So I would say use an official Fast Boy, Fast Boy V4, because those we have tested that you can kill them.
No, Chief, that's not what I'm saying. The V4 is
Oh.
already used in the Grand Prix, and that's what Frumple had to do that command to kill.
Oh, I thought that Ava's saying that you can use that the V4 spawn egg has high sharpness on it
It was
specifically
that
to kill them.
he was imported a spawn egg that wasn't a fast boy, that somehow was really, really weird and had some weird properties like teleporting around that regular fast boys don't have.
Okay, was that?
Yeah,
Wait.
I'm pretty.
Okay.
it didn't
Yeah.
look like a V4 to me. It looked like a very custom horse. So
I actually
Oh,
once
okay.
saw one in my town for some reason.
Yeah. So okay. So that is a red flag that we would need to keep an eye on during the event itself. But again, that's a mechanical thing. That's not like a
Yeah.
fundamental problem with the event. The only other change that I would encourage is that, and again, this is a mechanical thing, is looking at the different towns and possibly being willing to customize the number of laps per town. For example, Bawabik's roads don't, like, there's not really that much of a road network in Bawabik because like it's pretty compact. But about some of these other towns, you might be able to have more. So I think just
Yeah.
as
do
he's
we
planning,
really want to hold on? Do we really
No.
want to micromanage how he runs the event though? Because
No, that's what I would. Yeah, I agree. That's what I would
let's not.
do.
Let's. I don't
Yeah.
think we should. Like,
Personally speaking,
enough.
I have some experience. I ran NASCAR, so yeah, the whole thing with the laps and whatnot is something I have a little bit of experience with. So I might try
Anyway.
and reach out and offer help.
Yeah, I mean, I think it.
Anyway, it's
Okay,
not
yeah,
our
Crumple-
thing to
Crumple's made a good point.
micromanage.
Yeah, that's a good
But
point.
like, it's nice to give them advice, but we can do that outside of a staff meeting.
So, but I think that the one thing that we do need to manage is don't use custom horses because those have caused problems. But
Yeah.
and Harbor's already probably aware of this because he was made aware of it already. So
okay, great. Then in that case, I'm
The mount
Cool.
seems fine.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this. I love racing events like this.
motion to
New.
approve motion to fund in
Um,
full. Any objections for full bid?
Nope.
No, for
Full bid going once, going twice. Full bid. That is
Why
all
did you
set.
spell it
Okay,
like this?
because
Reading is giving me a headache.
it's
Game
a
of gammon.
Because
game of
gamming is a meme. I had to explain that to one person already.
I think
I mean, I know it's a
um,
meme, but I don't understand it.
You should
that's what-
ask Pi.
Ask Pi. Yeah.
That's Pi. Okay.
is
So,
Ava here right now? Like, maybe he can give some answers to questions we might have.
He was in game. He is, oh, I see. He's in the Discord.
Okay. I did
Yeah.
notice there were a bunch of questions. Were for the people who were asking them, like Skelly and Vista, were you satisfied with those answers? I guess.
Let's see. So my first question was basically give more details on what people said, which he did. He said that 5 people will not have the time to. 5 people will have the time to participate, which sounds decent enough, I guess. Although it would probably be good to have closer to a dozen people. Targeting to host the event July 17th through 21st. Yeah, that's kind of an issue because weekdays are not really a good time to host events, but it seems that he might be interested in changing the event to not be on weekdays. How will you recruit participants? Well, he's actually on the Discord now, so that's less of an issue.
And that abates Otto's concerns about not being on Discord, because that was resolved literally this morning.
Okay, there is Otto's concern, and this is fair. Like, there's no explicit. I guess my question to Eva is, how do you know that there are going to be 9 to 10 participants? Did you ask people? Like, how do you know how many people are going to participate?
Well, if you read his comment, he did say specifically provide more details on numbers.
If I may interrupt, I was asked in DMs, in PM, in game. He just came up to me and asked me if I would participate or prepare some stuff before the game, if I was willing to do that.
Okay,
that works.
Sorry, I missed that part. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why Otto brought that up, because that's very explicitly answered.
Because basically I screwed up and somehow missed on adding the comment by Avanish until after
Okay.
Autobus sent in that comment.
That makes sense. That makes more sense. Okay, cool. All right, that works.
Okay.
Good luck with the event, Avanish.
Well, so looking at this again here. So is a sort of like a part of another game show like Survivor and Big Brother. So, I mean, the concept of this has run in the past. I mean, Yoshi's done it twice now, with kind of culminating together all of his game show, or like the big series game shows all into one thing. So, unfortunately to me, the way that this proposal reads is that it's still being formulated out. And the thing that pops out specifically is what events are, what are the specific rounds that are going to be happening? Like, are you going to do a round of Big Brother? And are you going to do a round of Tar? And to me, it doesn't look like this, the way it's written and the way it's being presented, sounds like there has not been a whole lot of thought into. Well, now he's saying I've prepared the rounds. I've prepared the rounds, and everything. The builds are so not yet done.
Well, I'm assuming it assumes it's an element. I'm assuming that it involves an element of secrecy, so he can't just say, I'm going to be doing this on round 1 and this on round 2, because that would ruin the premise.
Sure, but
I mean, he can
and
show
again,
staff members later that aren't participating, I
I
guess.
would like to know how much exactly he has worked on it so far, because if he's wanting to start it within a week, then I'd hope he has at least the vast majority of it done.
How much would you say is done, like Avinash? Like half of it, 2/3?
How much time does he need to finish it?
We can always delay the event if he really needs it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm more concerned about using the stuff that Yoshi
Need
did.
a week or two.
Are we okay? I guess, did he get approval from Yoshi to use the branding and stuff of those shows?
Is he, or is he just taking inspiration?
It sounds like it's inspiration. Like, it's not.
I just want to make sure of that, because you said like it, and I'm just like trying to make sure. Like this is kind of reminding me in the sense of Game X, where like Yoshi did a round of each of his games, and it seems like this is kind of like Game X.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I mean,
So,
it's
I mean,
not like
again-
he's using Yoshi's assets.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure of it because there's not. It just says like it, and I'm just trying to make sure it's like a parody.
Or it's like similar concept, but has its own unique twist to it.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that like there's detail in
Yeah.
that sense.
Yeah, seeing as it does say it'll be at the end of the month, and he says he'll need a week or two, that is probably plenty of time for him to finish. And, yeah, I'd imagine more preparation work is done, more planning in the meantime, so
Okay.
I'd be willing to
So-
give this a chance.
Yeah, so big picture, I'm okay chancing it.
Avinash, do
with-
you mind if I ask who you're getting help from? I'm just curious, want to know.
Scully asked who will be helping you. Needon, based on Ava's response, he says, I was hoping Needon to know will help out during the event, but he said that he was busy during that time. I'm also trying to enlist assistance from other people.
All right.
So
Hoping, so not confirmed.
Sorry, what was that, CC?
Well, in the comment it says I was hoping Needon will help out.
yeah,
Oh.
not confirmed though.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I think Volpe's asking who's confirmed that they will help.
It doesn't sound like anyone has confirmed
Yeah,
that anyone
I
has.
feel a lot more confident in supporting this if I did know somebody else, was there to support you, because I don't want you getting overwhelmed or.
Needon, are you? Well, Needon's right here.
Oh yeah,
Hi,
he says he was
I'm
busy.
Is he?
Yeah, so I said that I was on holiday like that week. So I asked if like it could be another week, and he said that maybe he would do that. But he said it would only be help with like world edits and like preparing stuff like that, and
So he
not
needs
like
staff
any
help?
thought work. So he's doing the planning all on his own, as far as I know.
All right.
So he needs staff
Okay.
help more or less, like in a sense. Some of world edit.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I would encourage you to get help with planning for somebody else, especially since this is your first event.
Just so you know,
So-
a lot of people have tried running events, but unless there's a lot of work into it, and yeah, like sometimes they just get canceled because no one's participating or it's not organized properly.
Yeah.
So
Because if you
So the
again,
only-
sorry,
The
go ahead.
only thing otherwise that stands out to me is so the interest poll, and I know that this is not a definitive assessment, but so the interest poll yielded 5 probablys, a couple of maybes, and 5 nos. Do people like looking at the prize amounts? So 1,000 for the overall winner, no prizes for runners up and stuff like that, and then 1,500 to be distributed in the individual rounds. Are people okay with those prizes?
It's a little bit high for a first event, but no, actually no,
To
hold
me,
on. Be 3,500, right?
2550 for overall.
Oh, I see. Sorry,
Yeah.
misread.
So,
Not that bad, especially considering how
It-
much money's in the economy already.
well, I don't think it's about inflation. I think I'm just trying to size it relative to
We don't want to pull a Federal Reserve, you see.
other events that we have approved in the past. So, do people think that these prize amounts are okay, or does anyone think that we need to adjust them?
For a first event, I'd rather they be lower rather than higher.
I'll be
I-
open to changing it whenever needed.
I disagree. I think considering the scale of the event, I think the prize amounts are fine. It's just that the scale, I do worry that it might be too much. You're trying to do so much for your first event. So, but I'm willing to just
So,
let them give it a try and see what happens. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Ava, I'm okay with what we have here. I just wanted to make sure that we were talking about the prize amounts just because we were talking about the event, just big picture mechanics to begin with. and the prize amounts oftentimes, but not always, can be adjusted. So I just want to make sure that we had the space for that, to make sure that we were
Yeah.
okay with those.
And as Frumple says, yeah, the scale is probably fairly big, so it would justify some of the amounts.
Okay, so then in that case, then we would just want to make sure that there is a second person working on this then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to reach out for help, Ava.
Yeah.
So.
And if you do need like a staff to help you fully, I'm sure at least one of us can make time.
So I guess the question is, are we approving this in full, or?
I mean, just in full up, it sounds like is motioning a full bid here.
I think so. Whether or not it's up to Ava to pull it off, that we're leaving it up to him. So
I was going to say maybe a contingent approval based on he finds someone to help, just to make sure he's got someone with him.
I think I don't know if it's contingent is worth it. Like I'm leaving it up. We're leaving it up to Ava to decide how much help he needs. Like, and Kitty makes a point. If the event doesn't go well, or if we find there's something, not fair or something went wrong, then we can always not pay the money. So
we can withhold. So
I'd be interested in just approving this in full for now. And if things really do hit the fan, we can always reverse.
The other thing too is if the prep work is done well to begin with, then it may be very manageable by one person day of. I think day of management versus doing the pre-work, that's going to entail a lot.
But that's not the case here. We were saying that Avanish still had some stuff to figure out, and we're trying to make sure that he does get that done.
I'd be willing to put faith in Avanish here.
I don't know if we necessarily. I don't know if we necessarily need to put a rider on requiring supervision. I think if we just said we're concerned about this and we would hope that he would reach out as needed, but that we will be considering that when we give the payout. I think that's fine. That captures it pretty well.
Okay, I think we're on this. I think we just let Ava do his thing and see what happens.
All right. So then that's a full bid then.
I think so.
Approved.
Okay, approved in full. All right. 7C.
Just to be very clear, 7C, I got confused about it. It's not an expo, it's a building contest because I got confused about it.
Why name it an expo then?
Yeah.
Branding or something. I don't know.
So why? Why are you like this?
His Pulsa contest, that's what Frump and I were saying last night. I talked to him last night about the station. The way that I understand from him is he had built a full town that they're going to put the franchises in. And I tried to clarify with him. Yes.
So it's basically a franchise building contest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Similar to Seg of Sal.
It does seem he wants it. Does he want to edit the station, or just
he wants to replace the station? I told him that similar to if he's going to do the community town route, that it has to be the town actually has to be sizable enough to be deemed that mayor level to do that.
Is the station as a schematic? Is it in the lab somewhere? Because I honestly wouldn't mind making an exception here if it is key to the event.
I don't think so. With the rules, I think the town needs to have. There needs to be a prerequisite. There needs to be enough development there first.
At this current moment, the station is basically empty. He was trying to get this pasted. He didn't get to it last night.
He doesn't even ask for editing permission, only to have it renamed, which only comes after such an event and if the town is big enough.
No, he said that he's going to replace it.
Yeah, that's been retracted. If you look down in his comment on the next page, that he says that specific bit is retracted.
Yeah, so, I was just mentioning that I talked to him yesterday about it. I was just mentioning that I talked to him about it. That's why he retracted it, is because I talked to him last night.
Great.
Or talked to them.
So,
about the contest itself, how would people think about that?
The thing, so franchise building contests, I mean, so there's a couple things that come to mind for me right away. One is there's always demand for franchises, and it seems that people, at least in towns, when you've got a town and people are just kind of chilling out, they're asking anyone got franchises, and then you get crickets. So that's just to me that there's not a whole lot of originality of new franchises coming on the market all the time. Like, in other words, original franchises coming on are rare events that happen, but not a lot.
Sorry, I'm sorry to bring this up. There's no poll indicating interest in the event, as far as
They
I can
did,
see.
but
Yeah.
they didn't link it. I just put it in meeting live.
I swang. Put it in the.
So
Chip, I
who
will
put
also
this
say
on the
regarding
agenda
the-
then?
Regarding
Nissa,
the
I think.
Regarding the franchise thing, I mean, we have had successful franchise building contests that have worked. Like, I don't know what it was. He was doing some guy was doing a theme of environmentally friendly or so. There was actually quite a lot of entrants for that.
So, okay, so I have a couple concerns with the mechanics of this event. So one is, it doesn't look like there's any explicit rules prohibiting someone from just pasting in an existing franchise. And I don't know what the take is on would that be allowed or not.
Good question.
Of like, yeah, because again, so what are the judging criteria? And specifically, are the submissions, do they have to be original, or do they have to be like handmade, like new builds? Like they can use an existing franchise like company, but they can't use the standard location template. So it just what's the stance on that? The other one is the prize amounts to me seem high. This seems more on the scale of if we're talking a bigger building like the hotel contests. If I remember, I mean, I can look it up, but I mean, like the hotel building contests have been around this number from first, second, third. Maybe more if I remember right.
Looking at the. Hold on.
Okay, so I'm looking at the Expo 2019 of Creeperville. It had like a lot of places, a lot of spots didn't get filled. So in that way, it was a pretty bad example. But
sorry,
there were.
Needham, are you talking about an expo? That's
I think
different.
this
No,
is
it's also
this is
a
not an
GS
expo.
building.
It's not an
Well,
expo. It's a contest.
Yeah,
but Frumple, he's
It's an
calling it.
international competition. So it was
Just-
mostly franchises.
This
Better to
it
compare
sounds.
this would be to Uacam Beach or Seg of Sal in the sense that it's a hotel building similar to the hotel building contest that Time has ran.
I'm looking at the prize amounts for Uacam Beach. It's 4,000 for 4,000 for first. Basically, it was roughly 9,000 in total of prizes. So,
Okay.
so actually, the prize amounts are actually, I think they're fine, to be honest. Like maybe you can make it a little lower, but compared to that, I think it's okay.
Yeah, Katie, I'm saying that's a different style of contest. Like that's an this isn't really an expo, it's a contest. Like an expo is to show it off.
Yeah.
There's not prizes. There's prizes in the sense that there's a competition of builds. And that's what I'm saying. It's very similar to the Seg of Sal building contest and the Uacam Beach contest that Time has ran.
Confusingly, this also has the word expo in its name, which
Yes.
Which I
it's
think
not.
if we do approve this, we need to insist that's not called an expo because that's really confusing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So, I mean, again, the thing that sticks out to me, like, I mean, a franchise, depending on what the rules are, can be way smaller of a scale than a hotel, especially if you are allowed to paste in, or like if you're allowed to use existing assets to help in that process. I'm actually, based on the fact that there's some pretty major rules questions, inclined to say no bid, and it needs to be resubmitted with rules before we can fully evaluate.
Melcy did say that they have plots, so maybe clarification on the size of those plots.
Well, that's not. I mean,
I'm just saying,
that
like,
helps.
I'm just trying to outline
I mean,
points
that's
of what
just
you want to
effort.
see.
Like how much effort is it's not the size of like a hotel, but like if it's like 10 by 10 plots or like
No, I'm just
30
outlining
by
ways that
30.
MLC can resubmit, like points
Yeah,
that they
like
know what to do.
Yeah, the things that we need. So I would say, I mean, big picture, I'm looking for how much effort are we asking people to put in? The question of, are we requiring originality, or to what extent are we requiring originality? What is the judging criteria? Who's going to be judging? Because that's not stated. And the timeline. Like, how long do people have to build? How long do people have to judge? And so I think those questions need to be addressed before we can effectively consider this.
I agree with all those points. Yeah, there needs to be more details.
So I'm saying no bid
There
until.
seems to be an like open vote thing, but like it doesn't explicitly say who can vote.
Yeah, that's a question that needs to be
Students
addressed.
We need
Yeah.
more details because it's too vague. We don't know what that exactly means right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. So CC, did you get those points?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm motioning for a no bid. Any objections to that?
No, he has to resubmit. Yeah,
Correct.
Resubmit.
correct.
Resubmit with that kind of information, and of course
Yeah.
anything else that he would feel pertinent.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Denied, no bid. 8A, Dulwich.
I don't see any issue with
Pretty
this.
obvious approval.
I'm very much fine with this.
That's just going to slowly get Tranquil Force to go south, continue southern expansion.
I'm fine with this.
Okay.
Any objections?
No.
Seeing that it's in broadcast, we've approved it. 8B.
Oof.
Okay, so a bunch of IABs all in one go. This is.
The triple bypass doesn't sound good.
Oh yeah.
It just medically wise, it sounds weird.
Yeah.
Do we want to quickly TP to Sarah just to take a look around? I don't know.
On the surface, this looks fine. If anyone wants to confirm anything.
I'm back. What did I miss?
We're on Otto's bypasses.
I mean, if
Oh.
there was concerns, I think Vicky would have probably said something concerning, like she was hanging out today in chat.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm Mayor of Borali. I don't see anything wrong with this. That town north of Borali has been abandoned for years now.
Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty resounding approval then. Any objections going once? Going twice. IAB's approved.
I'll submit an IAT for that at some point.
Well, you can do that later. Okay. Last thing on the list is Captain Obi would like to rename Lake 39 to, how the hell do you pronounce that? Oh, it's right there. Eileen C.
It should probably be pronounced as Alien C.
Well, that's the pronunciation that he gave. So
Well, yeah, E can mean different things, either A or Eh. I'm gonna call it
So
E.
you're saying that we need people to submit items using the International Phonetic Alphabet. Got it.
Yes, that's the new requirement.
Okay. As for this, okay, so just confirming that so since it looks like the evidence of approval from the towns around, I would assume that like Captain Obi's gotten
It was
approval
a
from other
Discord
people, but
poll that kind of got a little bit mixed up.
Okay. But generally, it to those who saw it before it got removed or whatever, did it seem like it was okay?
It was five votes to 1, but they had the names mixed up. Because that's the email chain that Miso is asking about.
I honestly wouldn't have removed the picture just for clarity. But yeah, I recall that it was that one of the
Yeah, I think
options
so,
was
B.
A and Alien C was B, and people voted for B overwhelmingly, except B was before A. So Missa or someone thought that they might have gotten confused because B was before A in the emotes list.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that answers the question of.
Yeah, Obi put a screenshot of
Of
meeting
his-
live to confirm people's choices.
Yep. I just saw that. So okay. Gotta love having travel right before a general staff meeting. So, okay. In that case, I'm okay with this.
Mhm.
I think it's. I think it's
are the towns big enough? But that's the only thing.
well, it's a more a
I
question
mean,
of whether
that's-
they're the only towns around in that area. So, yeah.
Yeah, Las
Mhm.
Paz is Atavanga's mayor.
Itavanca got mayor very recently. Las Playas is senator. I think San Ostend is. I don't remember if it's councilor or mayor.
I mean,
I
don't
think with
know how
that
big
size,
Sure
it's
is.
That
fine.
is ranked.
I don't-
I didn't know
yeah.
it was ranked. Oh.
I don't know of any other towns, or especially any other big ones that are on that lake. So
Yeah, they had labeled them too for us on the map.
yeah.
Okay,
So I
San
think,
Ostend.
well, I mean, I think he's got the coverage, he's got the support. They're
Yeah,
all on board, so I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
the biggest town is
Uh,
like Frogs, and Frogs said he's fine with it. So
Okay. Yeah, sounds good to me then as well.
Approved.
Yay, we're done.
Okay, we're done.
Yes, I'm-
One thing, yeah, I do have the wiki page up and running for folks who want to add. I've just made a temporary little format. I'll polish it up later, but let me just throw a link in the broadcast.
Did you figure out all the stuff with Yoshi because you shouldn't be moving stuff like that?
Well, no, Frumple.
He's always been
trust-
doing this.
So, Frumple. So
I agree with
anyone who
Yoshi's
has-
moves.
So anyone who has trusted permissions, which is trustees and up, they can move pages, but
I'm
only
aware of that.
staff can delete pages.
I'm aware of that. I'm just have you cleared it up with Yoshi, like where it should go, basically.
What he did was a small caveat. I disagree with it, but I'm not really going to bother fighting it. It's tiny.
The new page or the new title of where it's been moved to fits the style. Why it happened?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, you gotta fit. You gotta standards. Yo.
I don't.
For viewers on MBS, we are approaching the Q&A portion of the GSM. If you would like to ask a question that you would like us to ask staff, you can put that right here in our YouTube live chat with your Minecraft username. We'll, of course, only be accepting questions from MRT members, so just put that right there in our live chat if you want us to ask a question.
So we're just gonna go straight to Q&A.
We're just going to go straight to the Q&A. As we, yeah, if you have a question and you would like to speak, you can go ahead and use the request to speak button, and we can bring
yep,
you in.
there's Aqua's question.
Yep, I can answer that. Yeah, now the Discord, it's hard to say what will happen if I ever decide to shut down the server, but I think it's implied that the Discord server will still be around for a little while longer after that. How it's going to be managed, I have no idea. Even just that is quite a bit of work, right? So, yeah, that's the best answer I can give you. Sorry.
Obi, to answer your question of do staff want an IPA, I think the
Yes.
nerds of us who understand IPA might appreciate it. Otherwise, go ahead and if you want to put it on your wiki page, like if you wind up creating a wiki page for it, then you can put it there. I mean, whatever's useful. But yes, IPA for those of us nerds who speak IPA, it is useful.
At first, I thought he was referring to the beer brewing standard, and I was kind of
We are
excited
not
for a second.
referring. We are not referring to India Pale Ales. We are referring to the International Phonetic Alphabet. which I specifically put IPA of Bawabik on my user page and I think on the Bawabik town page.
Webic.
Submerged subways question.
Submerged subways question. Frumple, I think that is for you to, if you want to speculate on anything longer
That's
than
a
a year out.
very open-ended question. Is there anything specific you want to know about that subway? Also, did you read the statement I made at the beginning of the meeting? Because that sort of answers quite a bit of it, I think. Yeah, if you're worried about finances, no, I can keep paying for the server. Like, that's not a problem.
You folks should donate that.
That I wouldn't say you should, but if you'd like to, that'd be appreciated. But you don't have
I think Volp has to do a stupid thing if we make 25, if we make a profit again this year.
That's not. I don't want Volp to do that.
Oh, the B movie thing raised lots of money, and the only casualty was my throat.
I'm just saying this right now. I would prefer you don't do that.
It's not going to be the B movie this time. It'll be something else.
So that doesn't something like it. Please don't.
Why do you hate fun?
I've been running this for 9 years. I'm a little haggard on.
I mean,
yeah.
But we've had an upward trend of increasing, decreasing the losses and then getting profit for 2 years now. So
yeah, Subway, does that?
But the trend's been going up for 5 years.
Subway, does that answer your question at all? I'm not sure. Do you have any specific, I guess, questions about the future of the server, whatever that means? Yeah, well, to be really honest, the finances aren't actually the biggest concern. The biggest concern is whether I can deal with the server, to be really honest. Because as I said in the letter, like, it does take a toll on my mental health just dealing with a whole bunch of people. And some of those people are not very empathetic or accommodating, and that's really difficult to deal with. So yeah, it really, if the server were to, if there's, less drama, less conflicts we have to deal with, like people are actually getting along, like that'll really improve the chances of me containing the server. But yeah, like finances are not really an issue. It's more the day-to-day, just continue to run it. If it's still giving a benefit to people, basically.
Fuck, what the hell?
Are there any other questions from Stealth from today's meeting that people want us to answer while we are all still here? Because it clearly chat is done with the meeting and chat is going off into its own chaos. So
yeah, sure, we raised 2K, I go bold. I go donate the charity that can donate the hair to cancer or whatever the hell. Yeah, I'll donate to cancer directly. That was how I meant to say that.
as I said earlier today, that clearly the IQ of this chat has been dropping precipitously over the course of the day. So
Before we end the meeting, I will announce something. I do plan on doing some sort of Jackbox stream or Jackbox thing, and maybe some other things like Gartic Phone or Secret Hitler or Poker. I'll be probably putting a poll later today and just an event announcements or something, and see what people want. I also don't know when it'll happen. Next Saturday and Sunday are all free now because Taco Burrito-thon got moved, so that might be the time to do it. But I also know some people are not here, so I'm not sure. I'll let people know. We might this next Saturday is probably the best time because that's the closest day, I think, to the actual anniversary. So yeah.
Oh, Chief, small. This is kind of verging on silly quest territory. There was no trustee notes today, but Leek did say he wanted to do one on the anniversary. So are you going to do like a readout then, or?
We'll deal with that later. I
don't know how that works.
If nobody else does, then I'll do it.
Yeah, go you if you. I don't care. Trust.
You don't want the trustee meeting to exist at all. Let's be
You
real.
know my position on it. I just think it's.
Be nostalgic if Skelly does it though.
Yeah, I think it would actually.
Volp, I can't make any promises for anything happening on the day of the anniversary because that is a work day and I have to do work.
Yeah, sure.
Because as I hope you all know, I do have a day job. So,
No.
He has a life.
I know, like I do other things outside of running the server. So,
Not allowed on this server.
London, I haven't been to Menards in probably like a year. So
You should change that.
I have no need to go to Menards.
But Menards needs you, Chief. Menards needs you.
Kind
I
of
think we're
started
starting back to general territory.
Yeah, you
I'm
kind of started the meme
fully
yourself.
aware. I'm fully aware that I started the meme, but like I have no reason to go to Menards. So, oh my god.
This is the
Okay.
hole you dug yourself. I'm not gonna.
Whatever. I'm not gonna do a Menards live stream, okay? If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I
Yes.
thinking is yeah.
Okay. We're done. Seeing that the questions have devolved into silly questions territory, that's it. Thank you all, Kitty and others streaming. You can end your streams. We will be back here in 2 weeks for an ISM, or is it 3 weeks? No, it's 3 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks because it's moved up. Yeah.
Right.
2 weeks,
right,
Plains
close it up.
Line should be opening then.
Nice.
Okay. All right. That is all. Thanks everyone for coming. And please clean up after yourselves before we come through and destroy everything. Goodbye.
And for our viewers on MBS, thanks for joining us for our live coverage of the July 2021 General Staff Meeting. Stay tuned to our channel. Later tonight we are going to be releasing a new edition of GSM Recap, recapping the important decisions made at today's GSM. And if you want to look right now at some of the decisions that were made, we have been live tweeting throughout the GSM. You can find that at twitter.com/news_MBS. Anyway, for now, from MBS News and a random boat in the middle of nowhere, I'm Kitty Catwoman 231, and thanks for watching.